Welcome to the Political Insider. And before we get on with today's news, there was a lot of comments about my Woolworths bag here. A lot of comments about the fact that it's rather empty. Well, you can either send a cat my way or else make a donation below. You can see that in the comments. There's a space for you to go and make a donation. Yeah, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, maybe you should penalize yourself by throwing a donation our way and help us keep going. But at least I'll be happy with a subscription from you. Thank you so much for being part of the Political Insider experience. So let's get on with it today. Shades of the G20. This thing that we love to do in South Africa, or certainly our politicians love to do, and that is to only do the work when the spotlight is on them. We saw the dramatic fixing of Johannesburg in preparation for the G20 ceremony, where street lights were suddenly fixed and lines were painted and grass was cut. And now that the visitors are gone, the lawnmower's been stolen, the paint is missing. Who knows? We're just not doing any work, and Joburg goes back to the filth that it once was. Well, you remember that game plan, which we like so much in South Africa? Well, I see that the police are using it now. Because after we reported the assassination of Marius van der Merwe, witness D at the Madlanga Commission, after his revelations about all sorts of shenanigans at the Cilliers Metro Police Department, who should pitch up at his house to console his wife? None other than Police Commissioner Fannie Masemola. Now, that's the human thing to do. The guy's dead. His wife's grieving. Let the police commissioner come there and say how sorry he was. But I don't remember this guy pitching up at the house of Babita Deokaran. Remember, she was also assassinated, more or less by the same people. In fact, his police failed to even investigate. It was just a matter of pure luck and one policeman doing his work, policeman on the beat, that managed to catch the shooters that weren't exactly hiding away. Just read Jeff Wicks's book. We interviewed him. Watch my interview with him on the State of the Nation, how one policeman managed to arrest the shooters, and then they took the case away from him, and of course then killed off the rest of the investigation. They never even opened her computer or her telephone to find all the evidence in the world as to who would probably arrange for her killing. So Masemola pitched up, and according to him, they've identified 3 people of interest. I presume that these people are the ones that pulled the trigger, not the people who ordered them to do the assassination, because those people are untouchable. We know exactly who they are. We know exactly. We have spent the last 2 months hearing about who those people are that would have arranged for this assassination so that Van der Merwe doesn't testify in court, right? This isn't very difficult to work out who the people are behind them, but oh my Lord, those are royal game. They are not to be hunted, right? And the police is definitely going to do their best to try and hush this up. Masemola even said that IPID, remember IPID? These are the guys that are meant to investigate rotten policemen, are investigating the 2022 murder that Van der Merwe referenced in his testimony at the Madlanga Commission. This is where the police, who are trying to shake down a criminal, they had apprehended a stolen truck full of merchandise and wanted to get money out of the guy who was driving the truck away, and eventually murdered him. And then, on the instructions of Julius Mkhwanazi, that well-known commissioner of Metro Police in Cilliers, were instructed to dispose of his body either down a mine shaft or in a dam. And apparently IPID, only 3 years later, decided to investigate. Well done. I wonder why IPID are suddenly so interested in doing their job. I mean, they've done nothing for 3 years. Right? I mean, Mkhwanazi, surely it couldn't have been a mystery to IPID and the police service what was going on in Cilliers Metro Police, unless they are completely blind, deaf, and dumb. And maybe one of the 3, but I don't know if they're blind or deaf. But my Lord, they did nothing for 3 years. Suddenly, they're investigating. It is amazing what publicity and international attention can do to our public servants. Now, we've got to just understand how disgusting it was. Two things that were absolutely disgusting. One is that the Minister of Justice, speaking about this assassination, blamed the media, blamed the fact that this was being shown on television and on YouTube. These commissions is why Van der Merwe was killed. You don't think it's because you've got rotten police that are allowed to operate and rotten judges that give people bail and hawks that try and interfere with arrests. You don't think that's the problem? You're blaming the media for covering the commissions? Really, Minister? You don't think that this is caused by the action of people very close to you? Your Minister of Police, who seems to be wrapped up in this, the former Minister of Police, who told the whole world how he was very happy to stay at Kat Matlala's house because it's nice to get free stuff, according to former Police Minister Becky Cele. So I don't know if it's the right thing to blame the media for showing the commission as to that being the reason why Van der Merwe was murdered. Perhaps if the police did what they are meant to do and the politicians do what they are paid to do, we wouldn't be in these situations in the first place. I think it's the media that are doing a great job. But maybe we should look to our parliamentarians that were backslapping Kat Matlala, running up to him, forming a queue to greet him and tell him what a nice guy he was. How about some of the Mkonto Wesizwe MPs that were saying how well-dressed he was and how he should give tips to people, to youngsters in townships, how they can also dress nicely like him and make money and build themselves up. From a criminal, really, who kills people, that's the route we must go. I would say before we blame the media for showing the commission, perhaps what we should do is look inward, look at politicians, look at what they have to say as to perhaps where the problem starts and the reason why innocent people like Babita Deokaran and Marius van der Merwe are getting assassinated. Maybe if people did their jobs, you'd find your reason. Don't worry about the media. The media is just there to talk about these things and raise attention. Not a lot of good stuff. When this thing was all in the dark, I didn't see Fannie Masemola pitching up at the murder of other people. But it's only because this is in the media that people are suddenly doing their jobs. That's just my view on that issue.
Educational level?
Matric.
Matric only?
Yes.
So if ngabuyele kasi Khotman, you advise intwana ezifuna ukuba uwe because yabo uyakhinda bra wami idlupho yalihlaba awudlali mshana malume indwangu yashaya strong, but that inspires a lot of kids ukuthi Khotman igcoka kahle and all that and is successful. What would I advise them, or how would you advise them to become you, ukuthi uqale phi so uzithola so successful kangaka? What did you do from matric to be so successful in business?
I wouldn't say I'm successful.
To your level, or
yes,
the goal of reach out, is that what I say?
Yes.
But for making more than $1 million a month, you don't regard yourself successful?
No, I don't.
Okay. But what would you, how would you advise umfana omncane ukuthi hayi kumele wenze kanje, or wena wenzeni ufike kanjani la ukhona? How did you get here? And how long did it take you?
Through security business.
Security business.
So as we speak, the ANC is busy with their National General Council meeting in Boksburg. They're having a great big jamboree despite not being able to pay staff salaries this month. And one would imagine they're going to have difficulty in December. And whenever that happens, you always got to hold your head, because that means that the ANC are going to do something silly for money. The last time it was the ICJ case that seemed to have solved their cash crisis. Maybe they're going to take Donald Trump to the ICJ next time. Who knows? But the ANC are short of cash. But let's stick with their National General Council meeting. Their Secretary General, Little Fikile Mbalula, in a moment of intellectual clarity, said the ANC can no longer command support. It must now compete for support. which is nice to know. It's nice to know that a political party feels that they actually have to do something to earn your vote. Anyway, amazingly, this, he says, just a few days after the ANC holds its Johannesburg regional meeting, where they shuffle the leadership in Johannesburg and elect to head up the Joburg region and presumptive mayoral candidate in the local government election in 2026. They elect one Loyiso Masuku. Now, we covered this yesterday. Loyiso Masuku, her husband was Bandile Masuku, who was the health MEC in Gauteng, and they were both suspended for very irregular PPE contracts during the COVID pandemic. This was the pandemic where Cyril Ramaphosa promised us that nobody will do anything strange with the money. That didn't work out too well. Well, Bandile Masuku was kicked out, but Loyiso Masuku was cleared of the contract. This is the same 125 million rand contract, remember, with a company called Royal Baka. That was done with the husband of Cyril Ramaphosa's own personal spokesperson of the time, Kuselo Diko, who's now a member of parliament and sitting on the parliamentary ad hoc committee looking into irregularities in the police service. This is somebody who was suspended, taken out of her job because they were involved. This is as bad as the time that we had a minister of intelligence whose wife was a drug dealer. It's pretty crazy what happens in South Africa. But in any case, the ANC decides to have a flawed person as their Johannesburg representative, and she's going to go stand toe-to-toe with Helen Zille to be mayor of Johannesburg, telling everybody, don't worry, I'm going to fix the place. Your money is safe with me. Well, perhaps let's see what else the ANC can do to improve their electoral prospects. Always the visionary. Fikile Mbalula noted that time was not on the side of the ANC if they want to turn around their fortunes. How's this for a good quote? Tangible results must be felt on the ground. And yeah, it gets pretty intense. Particularly inclusive growth, job creation, poverty reduction, combating crime and corruption, and improving service delivery. That's all we need to do in the next year, and they'll get a ton of votes. It suddenly dawned on them that they should be doing their jobs, is really what they say. They've had 31 years where they have killed off growth, killing off job creation, poverty has gone through the roof, crime and corruption is out of control, see all the commissions, and improved service delivery, he must have said as he drove through another pothole. It's crazy. We've been saying these things for years. Is the line just bad? Maybe it was buffering on that side, but who knows? Anyway, they've got 1 year to get this all together. My Lord, if they get this all together, South Africa will grow at 10%. But I don't think that they do have enough time. So what else could they do? Maybe they could go and help the suffering people of Gaza, take somebody else to some other court. Maybe help Cuba, that'll get them more votes. Maybe run the world by being president of the G20. I think I should perhaps listen to Fikile Mbalula and improve some of the basic stuff, at least make an effort to improve it. What was fascinating, and all jokes aside, was some of their research, which showed that most of their support is rural, like about 80% of their support comes from Limpopo and Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, and other rural areas, Northwest, and so on. And this is the crux of the problem. South Africa is a modern country. Let's face facts. I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't want to face facts, but we are still a modern country. You can go to other countries in the world and you will see that South Africa actually stacks up, right? But we are run by a rural party that don't understand how modern economy works or how the modern world works. The average branch chairman is 50 years old, and where there are women branch chairpersons are even older than the men. This is a party that is undeniably stuck in the past. They don't understand what it takes to run a modern country, and they shouldn't be in these positions. This is a rural party, and as South Africa urbanizes, they're going to lose more and more support, and they are going to get hammered in the urban areas in the local government elections next year. So moving on and staying with parties, the two biggest parties are locked in their own succession battles. And this is going to get very, very interesting. Now, the first up is going to be the second biggest party in South Africa, being the Democratic Alliance. It holds their elective conference in 2026. Now, the Democratic Alliance doesn't hold the same kind of elective conference that the ANC holds. In actual fact, they would do what we would call a managed democracy, what happens in many big businesses where succession is managed rather than fought for. And we do know that part of that sometimes, that managed process, is to get rid of somebody who doesn't really want to go. But it looks to me like my good friend John Steenhuisen is on his way out. His ill-advised spat with Deon George is going to prove to be his undoing. The fact of the matter is that regardless of how this thing shapes up, there's going to be the memes, the jokes about a guy that can't handle his own personal finances. I think that I'm actually going to say this, John. I think that it's a bit sad because I don't think that this is the crux of the problem. I think that the real problem is that he wasn't the right man for the moment. He looks set to be replaced by Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis. It may be a good move. I don't think he will be the next president of the country, but it'll be a better move because I think that the DA is in desperate need of a leader that passes the beer test. The beer test is a real thing, and that is in politics. No candidate is going to win if it's a person that you wouldn't want to go and have a beer with. And I don't think that, with best respects, you want to have too many beers with John Steenhuisen. It's just my impression. Right? I think at Jordan Hill-Lewis, maybe you would want to go and have a cocktail on a deck somewhere. But, at least he looks like somebody you want to spend some time with. I think that what will happen is that it will go through like that. There is a question of potentially Cilliers Brink putting his hat in the ring. Who knows? Young candidates. But as we can work out, they are both white, and in a country that's majority black, that's always going to be a problem. And yes, I'm going to get 1,000 comments saying, should they window dress? No, they should be alive to the realities of South Africa. Back to John Steenhuisen. I think that he will stay on as agricultural minister. And then, of course, we are starting to see moves to the big succession battle. While the ANC remains the biggest party, they will be relevant. I don't know if that'll be the case after the next election, but no party is really running in to take over the mantle of what the ANC currently holds. So therefore, the election is still going to be an important one, and we understand that President Cyril Ramaphosa is heading to the end of his term. Now, apparently, President Ramaphosa and the chairman of the party, Gwidi Mantashe, are busy cooking something up, and that is to back Parliamentary Speaker Toko Didiza for the job. Now, we know that there's been a problem before when people have not been the deputy trying to be brought into the job as leader. There's nowhere that says it can't. It just has never worked before. Apparently, Gwidi Mantashe is going to use his influence in the Eastern Cape, which apparently has a lot of leverage. Now that they've lost KZN, they get a lot of support in the Eastern Cape. They've just come out of a period of being run out of Limpopo, and, the sofas are full in Limpopo. It's been a while since they've had leadership coming out of the Eastern Cape. But it may mean that current Eastern Cape Premier, Oscar Mabanyane, will join that long time-honored tradition within the ANC of being really bad at your job and then being promoted. Because he has been a shocker as leader of the Eastern Cape. It's at the bottom of every metric. And it seems to me that the idea that Ramaphosa and Mantashe are cooking up is to have Toko Didiza on top of her slate with Mabuyane as a deputy president. And then please God that in the fullness of time, the ANC won't be able to form a government, so we never have to turn the rest of the country into the Eastern Cape. But one would imagine that the thinking of the clarity is that both Ramaphosa and Mantashe feel that the ANC could not survive another scandal-ridden president. You know, Paul Mashatile, this guy who gets inexplicably rich, that he owns 2 mansions, one in Cape Town, one in Johannesburg. And he becomes the president, and almost from day one, the spotlight's on him. For me, I kind of like the idea of the spotlight being on him from day one. And the last thing we need is a clean ANC head, because what are we going to talk about in a show like this? And of course, the ANC's decline in Gauteng won't help the Mashatile cause at all. And if they continue to hemorrhage support in next year's local government election, especially in the Gauteng metros, it could be disastrous for Mashatile's ambitions. We've got to stay with Mashatile as we end this off, to say that yesterday in Parliament he refused to answer Democratic Alliance questions about a diamond which was gifted to his wife by none other than alleged fraudster and Zuma backer Louis Liebenberg. Only once the gift became known, in other words, it wasn't declared, did Mashatile try to return it. They're still not sure what it's worth. They've still got it. And he says he's trying to give it back. But the guy's in jail. Who knows? He also refused to answer questions from Action SA as to why, between July and August this year, which happens to be the northern summer, he spent 7.9 million rand of our tax money on his travel bills. It's exactly that kind of thing which I don't think the ANC could stand in the future. And if they elect Mashatile, they're going to get it in chunks. So that's all we have today on the Political Insider. Subscribe to the channel. Fill my Woolworths bag. We'll see you again next time. Thank you.